It's been a heck of a week for the Steam Deck. From new games getting verified, to aftermarket accessories being announced, to Linux market share hitting an all-time high. That's right, it's Steam Deck news time. First up, I want to talk about this because this is one of the biggest game releases of the year. I've had tons of people ask me about Diablo IV, specifically, will the Steam Deck support it? And the answer, it seems, is yeah, kinda. So Diablo IV requires the use of Activision's Battle.net launcher, which is especially lame as this requires you to jump through additional hoops to get it playable on the deck, but honestly, it's not a deal breaker. Liam at Gaming on Linux seems to have had a pretty easy time getting the game running on both his Steam Deck and desktop Linux. But it's great to see that the devs haven't included any artificial barriers for Linux gamers to play the game. Let me know in the comments if you want to see a tutorial on how to get this game running on Steam Deck. I'd love to make that for you. Next up, Gears 5 is now playable on deck. So Reddit user Demojis, as well as a few others, have noted that Gears 5 is now rated playable in their Steam library. Interestingly, the compatibility test shows that, quote, some functionality is not accessible when using the default controller configuration, entering some text requires manually invoking the on-screen keyboard, and some in-game text is small and maybe difficult to read. All of those are very standard reasons for a game to only receive a playable rating. The only other note here is that the game requires a persistent internet connection in order to play the single-player mode, which is really stupid. I don't understand why any game developers do this. And then finally, fans of fighting games have a reason to celebrate, as Street Fighter VI has newly confirmed compatibility with the Steam Deck. The game has earned its green checkmark, with the only caveat being that the first-time setup requires an active internet connection. But at least it's not as egregious as Gears 5's always-online bunk.
You know what always cheers me up? Laughing at other people's misfortunes!
If you want to pick up the games we're talking about today, you can actually use the links in the pinned comment below. And I want to know, are you going to be trying any of these games, any of the newly compatible games that we talked about in this video, or did I miss one? Leave me a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. And while you're down there, why not like that smash button? It makes a huge difference. You can also subscribe to keep up to date with the latest news and opinions that we've got going on over here. I want to give a special shout out to Sheldon Halcomb, one of the elite crew of patrons pledging at the highest tier. It's because of folks like Sheldon that I'm able to keep this show growing and keep these lights on. And we have a lot of lights here, so it's all greatly appreciated. Now, if you believe in the work that I'm doing, you can support this show with a monthly contribution using the links to Patreon below. And thanks. Also, I want to give a shout out to Discord user Fat Produce for sharing this photo of him wearing some of the merch that we have going on over at store.heavyelement.io. Fat Produce, my dude, you look great in this shirt. And if any of you guys want to pick up some of this retro-inspired merch, there's links in the description. Now, in last week's Steam Deck news video, we talked about a few upcoming aftermarket Steam Deck upgrades. The one that had me most excited was GuliKit's teased analog stick replacements that had a Hall effect sensor rather than the included potentiometer-based sticks in the deck. Well, GuliKit has delivered, and they've revealed their new anti-drift sticks, and they're even better than the previous models. But how? Well, first, these new sticks now come with the capacitive caps pre-installed. This means that they no longer require soldering like the previous versions did. Now, apparently many people installed the GuliKit sticks, recycled the caps for the sticks, and didn't solder the capacitive sensor to the module, thus losing capacitive touch capability, even though it was built into the module. It just had to be soldered manually. So they've fixed that issue here. I've seen a lot of comments saying replacing your sticks removes that functionality, but that's not true. You just had to do the work yourself. Now you don't have to do that anymore. It comes pre-installed. Also, there's now only a single SKU for these modules. The deck actually used two different types of control stick modules. There's type A and type B, and you needed to know which type you had and then order the corresponding replacements from GuliKit. Now you can just order the one SKU and use the little switch on the back to switch between the two types, A and B. Finally, these new modules use 50% less power than the previous iteration from GuliKit. That's an impressive reduction in power consumption. The installation procedure is documented fairly well on the official product page, and I'm excited to get my hands on these modules to give them a shot. Will you be upgrading your deck with these modules? Sound off in the comments below, and get subscribed so that you don't miss my installation guide. I'm going to be checking these out pretty soon as they're available on the market, so get subscribed. And you know what? This week has been all about aftermarket upgrades. I mean, after JSOX introduced their fully transparent shells last week, eXtremeRate teased their new full chassis replacements. They've got 9 different options, including some fully transparent ones, in case you missed the days of the clear shell N64 and Game Boy Advance. And I'll admit it, sometimes I do. The transparent shells start at $36 each, while the others are $46. These shells all look great, and I'm happy to see more options become available for us deck gamers. Next up, Gaming on Linux is reporting that Linux market share on Steam has hit an all-time high. After several months of strangeness, including an inexplicable outlier in March, Linux usage, which includes SteamOS, on the Steam hardware survey is now reported at 1.47%. Now, admittedly, that may sound tiny. I mean, 1.47%, that sounds trivial. But these are relative numbers. To put this all into perspective here, the last time we got firm numbers from Valve, they said that there was some 132 million monthly active users on Steam. Running the numbers gives us just shy of 2 million users running Linux. Now, the fact is that 120 million number, that was from March of 2022, and Steam has, in all likelihood, seen sustained growth in the year since then. Now, especially when you consider that the deck itself has sold over 1 million units and counting. I'd wager that the number is something more like 3 million monthly Linux users. Why? Well, if we break down the percentages here, we find that SteamOS Hollow accounts for over a quarter of all distros in use, and we can safely assume that the majority of Steam decks in the wild haven't had their OS replaced with another Linux-based distribution, especially when we compare the video card descriptions difference compared to SteamOS's install base. Now, this video card is the Steam Deck's integrated APU. So if there are at least 1 million Steam Decks running Linux, and Steam Decks are accounting for 25% of all Linux users, and we account for the fact that not all Steam Deck users are going to be playing every month, well, that means that there are going to be about 3 million, maybe around 4 million monthly active Linux users, and that's pretty wild. I've been running this channel for 8 years, and watching this number grow has just been a sight to see. Next up, the new Proton Experimental has arrived, and boy, Valve works fast. This new build fixes many issues, including flipped videos in Secret of Mana and other titles, Call of Duty 2 hanging when loading maps, Ubisoft Connect's notorious invisible window glitch, fixes for a few Proton 8.0 regressions, and more. But the big update here is that Lord of the Rings Gollum is now playable, and if you like middle-aged emo haircuts, check out that game. I don't know anything about it, I've just seen this screenshot. Finally, the latest Steam Deck beta client hit on Tuesday, and it included a tidy set of fixes and Steam input upgrades. First, a fix for the Steam Linux runtime was introduced, which resolved the issue where the compatibility tool was not being installed in some edge cases. Then, desktop mode fixed a number of issues, including incorrect menu positions, the wrong pending wallet balance being displayed, and a handful of other issues. But this time around, the biggest and most consequential fixes were for Steam Input. First, this new version of Steam Input puts the Switch Pro controller into simple mode when Steam Input isn't active. This turns off the home LED, and I've got to say that this makes a big difference for me. The Switch Pro controller will leave its home LED on at all times, and so this fix is actually quite welcome. Then, motion input was addressed with 3 interesting and I think game-changing updates. The first removed a problem where rotational motion would end up being averaged out. For example, in driving games, when turning in one direction for the yaw axis for extended periods. Now, these input values should remain constant. Then, accelerometer correction is now applied opportunistically. This means that when a controller is rotating fast or the controller is stationary, the Ouija effect with fine aiming is now significantly reduced. And finally, noisy gyroscopes should now be able to pass the calibration test without an issue. All in all, this has been another fruitful week for the Steam Deck, but I want to know what you think. What news item has you most excited? And did I miss a story? Leave a comment and let me know. I want to shout out my friends on Patreon, my YouTube members, and our ViewSync Premium subscribers who make what we do here a reality. If you believe in the work that I'm doing, you can use the links below to support the show. It's all greatly appreciated. That's going to do it for now, though. Thank you so much for spending your time with me here today, and I'll see you guys in the next one.